Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is Jean-Paul Sapari. Today I'm joined by Jonathan Chia, and these are your 5 headlines for today. A female inmate has died 3 weeks after she attempted suicide. A fight erupted over the weekend in St. Julian's as revelers hit the streets to party. Rosie and Kataria will contest the next general election despite breaching ethics on property deal. COVID-19 cases in Malta continue to rise as the airport finds itself inundated with passengers. And a incredibly cute story, Archie, the missing fox terrier, was found alive 8 months after he went missing. Make sure to stick around to the end of the episode as well. We have a special and exclusive interview with Maltese ultra-endurance athlete Neil Agius and his fiancée Lara Vella, who followed him and was by his side the whole 52 hours as he swam from Lanosa to Malta in a world record-breaking open water swim. John?
So a bit of a tragic story coming out from Malta's prison last night. A female inmate has tragically passed away through 3 weeks after she was found unconscious in her cell. So details are still quite scarce on the ground. This happened late last night, and an inquiry will be looking into the circumstances around her death. But what we do know is that after she was found unconscious last night, she was taken to Mater Dei before passing away. Unfortunately, this is not her first incident. 3 weeks back, on the 16th of June, she was found unconscious in what was believed to be a suicide attempt. Now, since then, she has been monitored by a psychiatrist who did say that she was making progress and that everything was okay on the ground, but clearly it wasn't. Now, this is a very shocking story to have a death like this happen in Malta's prison, correctional facility. Now, the prison has made steps in the last few months to kind of, improve their mental health approach. But clearly, with a death like this, more needs to be done.
Yeah, the question is whether enough is being done to take care of the inmates at prison, especially since this isn't the first time we've heard of someone passing away, an inmate passing away. And in this case, especially since she was being monitored, it begs the question what the conditions were when she did pass away. But a tragic story nonetheless. Moving on to our second story, and as many of you probably saw over the weekend, video footage was published online of a fight erupting in St. Julian's next to Parchville as revelers took to the streets in one of the few weeks since they've been allowed to, since Parchville has reopened. Video footage online shows a number of people engaged in a brawl by the bus station in St. Julian's. Some get shoved against a rental car, people screaming and shouting. Not much was known at the time of what happened, but Malta spoke to a couple who had filed a police report of the incident, a Maltese couple who are now offering a €250 reward for any info they might have on the others, people involved in the fight, who apparently stole some of their items as well from the car. Essentially, not much is known, but from what we can understand from police reports, this couple were driving in the go-to car, and for one reason or another, they got into an argument with another couple on the street. Apparently, someone's hair was pulled. They got out. They fought. Some items were apparently stolen, and that tends to be it, really. But yeah, a €250 reward now is being offered. But we haven't had to hear officially a police report filed by the parties involved.
Over the last few weeks and months, it seems like we've been seeing more and more fights happening in the streets of Malta. We've reported on fights in broad daylight in Marsa, in Msida, now St. Julian's. We have reached out to the Home Affairs Ministry to kind of see, are they taking all these fights seriously? Is something going to be done to make sure that Malta streets don't become a free-for-all all hours of the day? They said that they are increasing community policing in a number of localities, but with the summer heat really hitting in, tourism starting to reopen, and people just leaving their homes after a year and a half inside due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it seems like there's a lot of pent-up anger, a lot of pent-up energy. So I do hope that the police do start finding ways to, especially when it comes to these hotspot areas, to increase enforcement. Moving on to the next story, quite a big political story. Labour MP Rosie Kataria has hit back after a Standards Commissioner report found that she was in breach, an ethics breach, when it comes to her questionable property dealings with murder suspect Jürgen Fenech. So obviously, the Standards Commissioner Hisler had looked into this property deal after being reported by independent candidate Arnold Casola, and he has found that Rosian Qatar was in breach during this deal. Now, Rosian Qatar took to Facebook yesterday to hit back at it, saying, quote, everybody lied about me, and that the report was full of double standards. So obviously she's not taking the report lying down at all. She said, listen, I'm a young female politician in Malta, and a report like this that's full of lies will not break me. So clearly, she's not taking the report at all, and she's quite ready and determined to continue moving forward.
She's ready to contest the next general election. We'll see how that turns out. But the Parliamentary Committee this morning has agreed to publish the full ethics breach report. You can find it online at lovinmalta.com. Moving on to our fourth story now, concerning a rise in COVID-19 cases in Malta, which we experienced all of last week, to the point that now we now have 68 active cases on the island, despite having 335,153 people fully vaccinated against the virus. Cases continue to rise, but this comes obviously as Malta recognized vaccine certificates issued by the EU and the UK, resulting in the Malta International Airport being inundated with travellers coming in and out of the airport, essentially finding themselves stuck in long queues with no social distancing, as they have to go through health checks and other protocols before they're let into the country. Photos and images published online show this happening in the airport, but also in the transport to and from the plane to the airport, and buses and whatnot. A lot of people complaining that they're stuck there for hours waiting to go through health checks. It has to be noted, though, that this isn't a fault by Malta Airport as such, because these health checks and these zones are monitored by health authorities themselves, who have implemented these checks to ensure that people don't come in the country and spread the virus. But nonetheless, we are still seeing a small spike in cases the past week.
Traveling through the airport is already, quite frustrating enough. Mm-hmm. You've got to take your boots off, you have to take your belt off, there's a lot of checks. So add on to that all these new health checks, add on the anxiety and the fear that many people are having when they arrive on the island, as well as a general sense of confusion. And I can really understand why travelers are getting frustrated. A traveler who traveled yesterday, said that they spent hours waiting just to get their test checked. Mm-hmm. So it's literally just stood there waiting in line with people. It's very, very difficult to socially distance, so it's super frustrating. And like you said yourself, it does come from the health authorities and not from the airport officials themselves. If you plan on traveling, or if you have had an experience, do let us know in the comments below what you went through. Moving on to the final story, quite a positive note to end with the first half of today's episode. A fox terrier that had tons of people searching for it and it's been missing for 8 months has finally just reappeared. I don't know if you've been following the story of Archie the fox terrier, but €500 reward had been offered for any information that would lead to his find, and he has been found by animal welfare. So the owner of this dog, Ruth Seikel, took to Facebook in a widely shared post. It was getting tons of engagement as well, where she was just explaining that she was just having a shower at home one night when she got a phone call asking, have you lost a dog? Do you have a dog missing? She nearly freaked out. She immediately got out of the shower. Within a half an hour, she was at Sijiwi Center to meet animal welfare officials, who brought Archie back. They uploaded video footage as well of the moment when they met Archie, and the family said, quote, "The rest is pure happiness." Interestingly enough, Archie seemed to have put on a few pounds since they had last seen him. So it seems like for the last 8 months he's been having quite a good time. But it's just really good to see that the family are reunited with their dog.
Yeah, no, it seems like he went on a bit of a long vacation, but I remember this breaking in November with the family posting daily with the Lara award as well for anyone who had any information on Archie, and then it went cold for months. And imagine you think the worst might have happened, but it's great to see that they've finally been reunited, and that's a happy ending to the tale. With that being said, this brings us to the end of our news segment, but make sure to stick around for an exclusive interview with Maltese ultra-endurance athlete Neil Agius, who just completed an incredible world record-breaking swim from Lenosa to Malta, and along with his fiancée, Lara Vella, who is there by his side every minute of the way.
Hey everyone, we're back at Lovin Daily. Today we've got some very, very special guests in the house. We've got Agius and Lara Vella here with us today, right after an incredible world record breaking swim that was over 52 hours from the island of Linosa to Gozo. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So Neil, before we get into it, I have to ask, have you finally gotten some rest yet?
Yes, now slowly it's getting a little bit easier, but the first couple of days, especially my body was sore, sunburns, especially on my back, made it really difficult to sleep properly.
I mean, I can just imagine. I mean, I spent a few hours at the beach and it's hard to sleep, let alone 52 hours in the sun. So obviously, since you've been back, I'm sure you've been getting messages, you've made Malta proud. I've been seeing people literally taking to Facebook to say how proud they are of Malta, especially after the last few years we've had. I think you've really made an impact for the island. So when it comes to the run itself, let's just go back to it. So obviously the iconic moment where you got out of the sea in Gozo, you stood up, the crowd's cheering, you fell over a little bit and got back up. What was that moment like?
It was very surreal because about an hour before, it's when my hallucinations were really at their peak. So the last hour was a real struggle, and I'm really thankful for the team to be there and so supportive in that tough time. When I got into the beach, the visions all kind of left, and I kind of realized where I am, and I could start hearing the crowd. When I swam for the last few strokes onto the beach, it was quite further out where I tried to stand up, and I realized I'm not going to manage to stand up. So I knew that I was going to kind of almost fall over when I got a bit further up the beach. So that's why I stood up and really stayed still, because that was the most I could do at that point. And then when I made it up to the top, then sat down on the chair and I kind of put my hands over my head and I kind of regrouped myself. And then I was feeling much better.
So the drive home, when everything kind of quieted down, were you still hallucinating, or were you right there? Were you lucid?
No, I was lucid but hallucinating. We stayed at a friend in Gozo, and when I kind of walked into her house under one of the tables, I'm like, are those little puppies under there? And it was just a cover basically wrapped up that looked like puppies to me. And Lara's like, okay, you need to go to bed.
Now, talking about Lara, so obviously we see you swimming, we see you arrive, but you had a whole team behind you.
Yeah.
You had around 22 people, if I'm not mistaken. Lara, what was it like, being by his side, seeing him do all the effort, but having 22 people working around the clock as well to make sure that he gets everything he needs?
Yeah, I mean, the team is really, really crucial. It really can't happen without a solid team. A lot of the people on our team are really close friends as well.
Okay.
Which helps, you know, because there's this certain love and respect for Neil, which you need on a mission like that. You know, most of us wouldn't have slept sitting there in the sun for many hours, watching him endure, you know, time after time. There really has to be a certain dedication to do it.
So who made up the team? You had medics there. Who did you have on the team?
Well, we had medics, we had logistics, we had people whose main role was to taxi people from one boat to another.
Okay.
Then we had a group of feeders who were in charge of feeding Neil, and a group of motivators. Then we had captains of the sailing boats, so we needed 2 captains per sailing boat. We had 4 sailing boats. So yeah, big team.
I mean, it's very serious. So did you guys, you know, stay up during the night? Do you take shifts to sleep? You know, what's kind of the routine and the procedure?
So it was all in shift. Either it was 3 hours during the day and 2 hours at night.
Okay.
Yes. But by the time, especially in the bad weather conditions, by the time they came to pick you up, took you back to the sailing boat, you had a shower, tried to get some sleep. It was super rocky on the boat, so anyone who wasn't very used to being at sea found it hard to sleep. So, and then before you know it, you wake up, you have to eat something, and you're back on shift again. So it was...
Now, talking about eating, I think one of the most interesting aspects of this is the feeding, right? It's very scheduled, it's very routine. So explain to me kind of, how do you feed someone who's trying to swim for 52 hours?
Basically, what I've realized works best is I have smoothies from Dr. Juice. They're specifically made, so each smoothie will have about 2,000 calories in it.
Okay.
And obviously I won't drink the whole thing, that's why I stop every 28.5 minutes. So I'll have a little bit of that. I have my electrolytes, and then I have to wash my mouth with mouthwash every time, and another gel in my mouth to try and protect it a little bit from the salt exposure. And obviously each time they're drinking this and they're like, drink more, and I'm like, I can't drink more. But yeah, it's super important I keep myself hydrated, because once you're dehydrated, then many things start shutting down in your body.
Now, in that video that you had uploaded the day after the record, you had mentioned that your throat and nose were a bit burned from the sea salt. So what are some of the actual pinpointed areas that get affected when you swim for so long?
Besides the obvious muscle pains, that the lactic acid fatigue from that, the mouth sores, I have ulcers all around my mouth, my tongue, inside my nose.
Fun.
And also my throat started swelling up, all because of the salt exposure. These are all parts of your body that are safe and covered from exterior things during your day. So when you're putting so much salt in there, they're not used to it. And I have sunburns as well on my back.
Yeah, I could just imagine that as well. So obviously there was many highlights, but one of the highlights was the fact that you proposed to Neil just as he was about to take off. I mean, super romantic, I think very unforgettable. So I have to ask, are you going to be married at sea?
It wasn't really something that I had in mind. I sacrificed my proposal, so now the wedding I'm going to do it my way.
Do you have a timeline at all? Are you planning to get married this year, next year?
Basically, for now, all I'm thinking is after COVID, because we have to be able to dance all night.
And when it comes to your next kind of plans to, keep promoting this mission that we're going to speak about shortly, you had mentioned that you plan to break another world record, this one as well. That's a bit of a long-term plan. Do we have a timeline for that at all?
Not really, no. I need to see how my body recovers, and it's not just recovering from the sores and the muscle pains. It really needs to rest and recover. The doctors told me that this is like you did an operation, so you should stay at home for 6 weeks. But that's not going to happen, because I'm going to work tomorrow and back to...
Really?
Yeah, back to routine, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, my body has to rest. I do have a few things planned at the end of September, something really short though.
Such as?
We're trying to go to Greece if it works out. There are some really cool, sexy locations where we'd like to do a few swims.
Okay.
Do that in September, and then plan something for Christmas time.
That's really exciting. I mean, you had done something last Christmas, right?
Yeah.
So that was really fun as well.
Yeah, we'll do something witty like that over Christmas. Try and hopefully it will be COVID-free and people can gather, and we can get some children involved as well, and get the communities together and really keep wave of change in the news and on people's minds.
On that note, wave of change, you know, I think obviously with your record attempts, your record breaking the record, you've really helped raise awareness for wave of change. So for anyone who might not know what wave of change is, can you just explain what it is?
Basically, wave of change is there to inspire people to make changes of the behavioral patterns. At the moment, we have the campaign running where we're picking up 6 pieces of plastic and tagging 6 people, and that's the first step to just make people aware, because once you do the challenge once and you look down and see what there is on the floor, then you're like, oh wow, okay, this is a problem, because it's always been there since we've been young, so it's like you kind of walk by it like
get used to it.
Yeah, you get used to it, yeah. So once you make yourself aware of the impact that it's having on our livelihoods and on our future and on our future generations, our children, that it's an eye-opener, and then from there we're really going to start putting out campaigns where we need to see what we're buying. When you're at the supermarket, do you really need that product? There are many different sustainable products at the moment that can replace plastic, so we really need to start venturing out and buying these products.
You know, one thing I really love about this is that we're starting to see a lot of young Maltese children get inspired by your acts and take on challenges of themselves. We have people like Zach Bujea, who's a student of yours.
Yeah.
You know, just 8 years old. He said he's going to do a 2.2 challenge, 2.2 kilometer challenge. We obviously have Jake Vella, who's a legend in his own right, doing his own challenges in an indoor pool. What is it like to see actual change happening in these younger people, a younger generation who could be, you know, not caring so much, who could be at home doing whatever, instead deciding, you know what, I'm going to jump into the water, I'm going to do a challenge because of Nila Juice?
Yeah, as much as I inspired them, which is something that came as a secondary, and I wasn't expecting to have the opportunity to inspire so many people. They also inspire me because for someone who's 8 years old who wants to do a 2.2 kilometer swim, for Jake who needs it for his basic survival to swim every day, you know, I choose to do these things, and Jake has to do these things for his own health, or his health will deteriorate much, much faster. So they inspire me as much as I inspire them, you know.
Now, moving towards the end of the interview, one of the things I think that's really central in your story is that, you know, obviously you have to be physically in shape, but really and truly the mental fortitude you have, you know, the strength you have in your mind is what's going to get you to the end of these endurance challenges. How important is it to you to be, you know, mentally prepared, mentally aware, central, you know, and determined?
I think it's the key. You can't go into this not mentally prepared. I think swimming around Malta, I was not mentally prepared. I did not prepare mentally, but only physically. And out of all the swims I've done, it was the hardest one, except for this one. But that was only 22 hours, so we're talking 2.5 times more this one was, and that was much harder mentally because I wasn't prepared for it. So I didn't expect to get myself into such a dark place and keep spiraling and not know what to do. And it wasn't about your shoulders can keep taking you, because your mind won't. So a lot of meditation, a lot of listening to spiritual prayers and songs as well, that then when I'm in a dark place on the boat, they play these songs.
You even had a musician on the boat, right?
Yeah.
How important is having music during these runs to you?
Yeah, it's good. Also, it's not only him playing the music, it's his presence. You understand, it's not the same thing as listening to it over a speaker. Him there, his presence, his firmness gives me the energy to keep moving forward. And once I'm in a dark place, like I said, they play these chants and these songs and these prayers, and then I remember about my meditation, and it takes me to a good place again.
How good, how good, how good. Finally, you know, every few years, someone comes along and breaks a barrier that, you know, people didn't think could be broken. And once that barrier is broken, everyone starts thinking, oh, wait a minute, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do this. You've now come and broken a barrier. And I feel like Maltese people are going to start thinking, oh, wait a minute, I might be able to do something I didn't think I could do. So finally, you know, to anyone watching, anyone that's been following your journey, that's still ongoing, you have a lot more to give. What would you tell them, you know, about reaching for things that they think might be impossible, that might seem totally insane, and doing them?
Yeah, it's always that hard work and dedication will always help you get to your goal, and it doesn't stop you from doing anything, you know. You can achieve whatever you want to achieve as long as you put hard work into it. I mean, I had Julian, who works here at Lovin Malta. I met him. He said he wants to break the world record for sitting in a hot tub. I inspired him to do that. So
We'll have to definitely see that if that happens. Neil and Lara, thank you guys so much for coming in. Once again, you've made Malta proud with what you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, that brings us to the end of today's episode. From myself and the team, have a day full of lovin'.